Hi, this is Matt with Grand Ventures. Today I'm in Seattle, Washington, and as you can see behind me, it's a massive plane. I'm out at the Museum of Flight. Now, I haven't come here since I was on a field trip back in grade school, but I decided to come out and check this out today because they have a traveling exhibit. It's called Disney and World War II. Basically, after Pearl Harbor, Disney was approached to kind of help with the war effort, and they used their power of animation to educate and to kind of contact the public. And so they have a whole exhibit here because it's a lot of different artwork. They also have a very specific logo that has Donald Duck with a B-17. Now, the B-17 bomber was actually created here at Boeing, which we're in the heart of Boeing country down here in Seattle. So I hope you join me on this adventure. Now, out front, they have a display here. The big old plane. This is a Lockheed Model 1049G Super Constellation, the Super G. And this kind of frames up the building out here in front of the Museum of Flight. Quite a massive plane. And just to give you a little bit of scale, I'm like 5'9". This thing is huge. Pretty neat. It's a hot day out here too. And I don't know, looks like they have a control tower. I don't know if it's working, but I see people in it. Up there in the distance, looks like they have air traffic controller. Now this is adjacent to I-5 as well as Boeing Field, as you can see off in the distance there. Got a runway, train, freeway off in the distance. So this is a pretty busy area. Now, Boeing was actually founded here in Washington. If you've flown commercially, chances are you've been on a Boeing plane. Now, out in front, it says, "Welcome all." It's a cool looking building too, and this is another angle a little bit further of that plane that you see out front. And it is a little loud because there are planes flying by us right now. There's a Air Canada that just landed. Okay, let's go inside. Now, this is that logo I was talking about, the Walt Disney Studios and World War II. And that's Donald Duck there, holding the B-17 bomber. It's kind of got a retro vibe to it, which I really like. Now, as far as admission goes, I did have a free ticket for this place, which is awesome. Adults are normally $25, youth are 17, under 4 is free. And here's the World War II opening July 9th, and I think it goes till February if you decide to come out. And what's kind of cool, if you see on the ground here, they give you kind of a walking path where to head to for the exhibit. And apparently it's sponsored by FedEx. Let's take a look. Now, I was just informed you can't actually take pictures or video what's in there, but I'll do a little walkthrough and I'll let you know what kind of they have in case you want to come see this exhibit. They told me everywhere else you can take pictures and film, but I guess for copyright reasons it's not allowed. So I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of that and tell you what it is. Well, I just walked through the Disney exhibit and it was very interesting. I did take a couple pictures. There's a lot of historical artwork. But it turns out Disney was a big part of the war effort. They not only created like films for education as well as PSAs about different things like keep your job and eat well. Also, they did some training films as well. And probably the part I like the most is they created a lot of Disney related patches for the military of all sorts of different sites. I'll put a shot of that up here. Really, really interesting. So now what's nice is even though I couldn't film in there, it's all included with your regular admission here. And so if you're here in the area, definitely check it out. It's educational and a little bit of history. And also they had an actual Oscar that the Disney Corporation won that was for a short film called Der Führer's Face, I think it was. I'm trying to remember but the poster for it is basically Donald Duck knocking at Hitler. So I guess Hollywood got quite deeply involved in the war effort after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and this was part of it. And so they created many films and shorts and cartoons and stuff to help educate and also kind of drum up the people in the war effort. So pretty interesting, well put on. And my favorite part again is the different patches that have military logos incorporated with Disney characters, and as well as that Oscar they won. Pretty neat. The actual Oscar is there. So definitely, if you get a chance, come check this out. It's definitely worth your while, and it's all part admission. So, and since I'm here, I'm going to check out a little bit more of the museum, maybe give you kind of a view of what it is. I really like these retro signs. This is airplane rides, 2 giant airliners, special rides 50 cents. And I don't know if that includes a parachute or not, but it should. And if you come out here, they have a nice cafe. You can get a bite to eat. It looks like they have some sandwiches. Prime rib sandwich, hot entrees. They got hot dogs, bratwurst, cheeseburger. Pretty reasonable prices, $6 to $12. Got some parfaits, water, and they even got tea, fountain beverages, and some beer. But yeah, cool little place to sit and get a bite to eat when you come visit. Probably one of my favorite things I see is these old posters. The Amazing Aero Car. These must be some concepts. And it looks like they have a Blackbird. Coffee doesn't get served, it gets vaporized. That's a pretty awesome. I would love to have this poster. Okay, now we're entering the J. Elroy Macaw Personal Courage Wing. And this looks like it's got planes of World War I and World War II. It's quite the screen. Kind of a vignette of old planes. This looks like the World War II section. Oh wow. Quite a sight to behold. Got this plane, looks like it's got some sort of fighting rooster on the side. This is a Messerschmitt BF 109 3E. These exhibits are full scale and really well done. Here's another large plane display. This is a Spitfire, or Supermarine Spitfire. Very colorful. It's still crazy to think that flight is even possible with these heavy machines and such. Pretty remarkable what humans have done. Now looking at this plane, it's got a big target on the side of it, and it almost seems like they're taunting the other pilots out there to try to shoot them down, like, you can't get me. Pretty funny. There's a lot of psychology that goes into warfare. And speaking of psychology, this thing looks super, super mean. This says O'Reilly's daughter. Look at this thing. Now, I remember I used to, when I was younger, do like model airplanes and such. And I had one, may have been similar, but I really like the shark teeth on there. It just makes this thing look mean, like it's ready to go and take care of business. This is a Curtiss P-40N Warhawk. First flown in 1938. I was in production until 1944. But that mouth is pretty cool looking. Here's an interesting section. They have different bomber jackets. I like that little symbol there. Now both the planes and the jackets look to be adorned with different pictures. This is a Liberty Bell A2 flight jacket. Pretty interesting, some of the customization. And I don't know who Aunt May is, but it's kind of compromising looking. Now this is a Russian plane and it's got a tiger on there. Now I don't know if Joe Exotic would approve of that.
Tell them that the tiger needs a little bit of love.
He looks a little surprised. But it's kind of interesting kind of what different cultures or nations put on their planes. Now one of the most prolific planes of World War II, the P-51 Mustang. This one's got a big old Screaming Eagle, and I can't count how many, but there's probably at least a dozen or more of crosses on there, which I'm assuming is confirmed kills. Now I just learned there was something called WASP, the Women Air Force Service Pilots that flew in World War II. And here's some of their uniforms. And actually, I'll throw up a picture, but there was a interesting Disney logo that showed the WASP. So, picture of, it says Girl Pilots of Ferry Command. I guess they had, what do they call those paper cutouts? Those uniforms are pretty slick looking. And there's a little TV area that kind of tells you a little bit about the WASP and the women pilots. It's a whole group of them. It says here, the service pilots face the risk of death without emotional inspiration of combat, sustained not by fewer than combat, but the steady heartbeat of faith in the right of our cause. Now, I just learned that the WASP were actually, in a support capacity, they help test aircraft, ferry aircraft, tow aircraft, as well as be trainers for other pilots. And so they weren't directly in combat, but they were in a support role and very necessary. So you learn something new all the time. Now in this section of the museum, the World War II section is downstairs. So I'm backtracking a little bit. I'm going to go upstairs and show you World War I. And this caught my eye on the way up to the World War I section. Here is a cross section of this plane over there. And it's got 3 of the machine guns, and you can see the rounds loaded right there. That's a ton of firepower. And I'm assuming they have those on both wings. But it's got like a little diagram down there with like loading instructions. Looks like 3, maybe 30 caliber machine guns. Pretty interesting. And this is kind of a bird's eye view of the World War II area. Probably close to maybe a little over half a dozen planes down there. Things changed quite a bit from World War I to World War II. This plane here, the Capricorn CA, the world's first fighter plane, created in 1914, and it looks almost like it's paper mache, wrought iron, and maybe wood. Granted, this is, you know, super old, but really awesome that it's preserved. Now I know I said I like old weaponry and history, but here's a little bit more. These ones are really cool. This is an old Springfield, 1903. And I think, don't quote me on this, this may be the rifle used as a sniper rifle in Saving Private Ryan. Here's an old machine gun. There's a broom handle Mauser. Now supposedly Han Solo's gun is based off of a broom handle Mauser. Pretty interesting. Now there's a reproduction grappling hook. Now you'd have to be pretty strong to crawl up that thing. I've only seen ninjas do it. Yeah, I don't think I could use that to climb up anything, but pretty interesting. There's an old one. Again, they have that kind of target on the side there. Big wooden propeller, and this thing's very boxy looking on the front of it. This is a This isn't a historic plane, it's a replica. And they have sound effects, as you can hear in the background, of a dogfight going on. Hopefully the good guys are winning. This is probably one of my favorites so far. This is beautiful. This is called the Black Prince. Well, I was wrong, but it says these different symbols here. Roundels and crosses mark the nationality of aerial combatants in World War I. Here's a whole bunch of different ones. Now, number A is Britain, B is the United States, C is Belgium. It looks like D there is Germany and Austria-Hungary. E is going to be France, which looks kind of similar to the U.S. F is Turkey. G, Italy. H is going to be German and Austria in the, it says here the early war. This one came about in the later war. And the last but not least is Russia. So you'd really have to know your symbols so you're not shooting down the wrong guy. It says right here, when you see this sign on an airplane, he is an American. Do not shoot at him. He's trying to help you. Now the World War I exhibit, albeit there are different planes, they do have a lot of them. And it's really well themed up here as well. And like I said, the theming's good. It's got like this old timey looking village house called the Farmhouse Theater. Now let's take a peek at what they're showing inside. So it's another little theater, and they give you some information about fighter pilots. Now here's some historic recruitment posters. Don't wait for the draft, volunteer. And if you volunteer, you can get that old musket. Of course, we know the infamous Uncle Sam there pointing at you. He wants you for the Army. And you can also make the world safe, enlist now, and go with your friends. Now this section, World War I was marked by a lot of trench warfare. Here's some gas masks, and this is actually made up to kind of look like a trench. You got the sandbags over here. Looks like a crashed plane wing. Some more historical items. Looks like some of those stick grenades, Colt 32 pistol. That one's a beast if you can see it. German Hebel model 1892, and some helmets. Kind of a little scene of some soldiers hunkering down. But the theming in here is really neat. Got some lighting as well. And here's like a mock-up of like a plane crash. It looks like a downed German plane from the early war. And here's almost like a shell of an airplane. You can see all the wires and such. The big propeller. It's a Curtiss JN-40 Jenny. Now, the World War I and World War II section, you could definitely spend a lot of time here. I kind of went through it a little bit on the quick side. There's a lot of information, plaques on the wall, things to see, kind of recreations. Like I said, you can hear the plane flying overhead with the dogfights, the trenches. But if you come to this museum, you could, if you wanted to, spend a lot of time. And if anybody has dads out there, dads would love this. Dads love this kind of stuff. I'm a dad, and I do love it. Pretty interesting. Now, this place may be better for older kids when they can read and kind of understand some of this stuff. Maybe a little boring for youngins. Although my little 5-year-old would probably like it because she likes just colorful and interesting things. They do some theming, which kind of can seem a little spooky and or interesting. But this would be a fun thing for the whole family, and you could definitely spend a lot of time here and probably not see everything. This is just one section of the museum. There's many more, which I'm going to show you here in a moment, but definitely, I think I kind of like the World War I scene better with the trenches and some of those other theming and seeing these old planes, but still there's no Red Baron cooking up here, and I did not see Snoopy. Sad emoji. That was a World War I and II section, and here looks like space and beyond. Got some stuff about the Apollo program, and we'll show you the space exhibit and what else this place has to offer. Oh, speaking of Walt Disney from earlier, yeah, Walt Disney looks like a experimental aircraft, and then got some different space items. Here looks like a guy in a spacesuit. Looks like maybe a Russian one. Now, speaking of spacesuits, this may be a little craft, but a joke I heard as a kid is someone tells you something that's not that funny and say that's about as funny as a fart in a spacesuit. Which, ironically, it wouldn't be funny because it'd be held up there with you. Still holds true today, though. Now, this next section is called Apollo, and you walk in, and it's pretty interesting. You can see kind of a moonscape in the back. Let's take a look. And walking into the space area, they got different modules. It's like they got a space rover over there. Look at this engine here. This thing is massive.
Oh, hi, little guy.
This thing caught my eye. This is the Apollo lunar roving vehicle. And I wonder if you can get HGTV and some house hunters on that antenna, but this thing's pretty cool looking. What's interesting to me, though, is look at these wheels. They're made out of, like, you can see some sort of mesh. I don't even know where to begin in here. This place is massive and has so much to see. But if you're into space, check it out. Now, I just exited that space area, and I had no idea how big this area is. They have the space exhibit, the World War I, World War II, and then they have a massive, massive building that has tons and tons of planes. Let me show you. If you look here, there's just quite an impressive collection of different aircraft. And one I really wanted to see off in the distance, that black one, is the SR-71 Blackbird. Really impressive. But no joke when I say that you could spend literal hours here and maybe not see everything. It's true. There's just so much. Down in the distance there, you can see that. If you watch any Vietnam movies, they got that Huey. Got all sorts of commercial planes, fighter planes, you name it. A NASA plane up here. And it looks like they also have a Coast Guard plane as well. And this is pretty neat. It looks like you can actually walk onto a mock commercial flight here. Let's take a look. This is called the Airline Theater. Now, if you've flown recently, tell me, are these seats as big as they've always been? Now you can walk further up. The seats here, like I said, these are quite roomy. But up at the front here, they have a cockpit as well. Not quite sure what model this is, but yeah, there's the cockpit. And I think this is only a partial piece of a plane. But the flight just ended. Now everybody get up at once and rush, even though you can't move anywhere if you're in the back. Happens every time. And there's a better shot of that SR-71. What a massive plane. And in case you're not sick of it, here's yet another shot of the Blackbird. Stealth fighters and stealth airplanes have always really interested me for some reason. I sit there and cruise around without the enemy knowing you're there. This thing is quite impressive. And this almost, maybe they modeled it after some sort of jet engine, but this looks like a pod racer from Star Wars. But this is the Pratt and Whitney engine put in the SR-71. That thing, I'm sure, can scream. And from the looks of it over here, you can get a photo op in this, the front of this plane. It says U.S. Naval Test Pilot School. And it does look like they have some virtual reality. You can have, yeah, a test flight and fly a plane in one of these little pods. Sounds like it'd be fun. It looks like it's like $10 a person. Now, up from that large hangar area, they have something called the flight zone, where it looks like kids can run around and there's stuff they can climb on and actually touch and maybe get the wiggles out. Pretty neat, though. They got a space capsule, a little helicopter there, and a plane. Pretty neat. If you take a look, a lot of field trips coming out here. Now, I checked out most of the museum. Let's take a look at the gift shop real quick. This is the museum store. I like this plane shirt out front. $37.95. Pretty neat looking. Looks like they have little replica planes. It's Alaska Airlines. Pan Am, that's no longer around. Speaking of the Red Baron and Snoopy, they have his book and his water bottle. Now this is a really cool looking bag. $68.95, but kind of looks like some of those fighter planes with the teeth. It actually seems like pretty good quality. They have a whole section of space patches. Apollo Oh, this one's pretty neat looking. Very futuristic. Reminds me of Tomorrowland. They do have some really nice leather bomber jackets. $280. Ouch. Pretty nice though. I really like this shirt that says Museum of Flight Seattle, and it does have Snoopy flying. And they also have Snoopy as a top dog. And we do have a Patreon. I think I'm going to pick up a couple of these Museum of Flight postcards, and one could be sent to you if you become a subscriber. Got different space ones. Reminds me of the MTV symbol. Well, that was the Museum of Flight, and I don't even think I scratched the surface. There's so much to see here. There's actually a whole nother section of the building that I didn't even get a chance to check out or see their exhibit there. I think there's like a B-52 graveyard or some sort of additional plane exhibit. So, man, I should have planned for a little more time. Definitely, if you come out here, give yourself plenty of time. There's a lot to see, a lot to climb on and interact with, which is nice. It's not just seeing stuff, but they do have some photo ops as well as some interactive things for the kids. I really like the plane walkthrough, even though the seats were kind of big and not as cramped as what I'm used to. But this place is very, very impressive and a lot of fun. If you like this type of content, give us a big thumbs up. That definitely helps the channel. Also, if you're not a subscriber, please do. And hit that bell. That way you can join us on our next adventure. Additionally, we have a Patreon, $5 a month. I'll get you a personalized postcard from a location we visited. And we hope you join us on our next adventure. Thanks for watching. Now, of all the planes I've seen, if I could give myself a nickname of one of these, it would be Big Stud.